Well, it appears that they have done something else over there that will probably end up costing the American people some more lives, because it seems like every time our government says that they have done something on our behalf in bettering our lives, it appears that it backfires to the degree that instead of bettering our lives, it actually worsens our lives. So they have come out with some sort of a news break here towards somebody assassinating somebody over in the Middle East, over in Afghanistan, in which killings and murders goes on over there every hour, every day, every second of the day. There is not a time whenever somebody is not engaged in killing somebody over there. I mean, they talk about the civilized country, which is us, supposedly, in comparison to the rest of the global society. And they claim that we have more gun violence on our streets and that there's more incarcerated prisoners in our prisons than any other country in the world, in which there is, on a civilized tone. But on an uncivilized tone, I guarantee you, hands down, in Afghanistan and Iraq and Iran and all the Middle East areas, it ain't nothing but a total chaotic bloodbath on a day-to-day level of one tribal group trying to bring down another tribal group towards who's going to be the leader of the pack. You talk about extremists. You can't get no worse than over there. There's something like 70 known terrorist groups in addition to the ones that we don't know about. And I'm going to be quite frank with you, the reason why I think that they're putting this out, I think something has scared our American politicians because of some of the stuff that has been coming out with Donald Trump, and Donald Trump playing golf with the Saudi Arabians sponsoring Donald Trump, or Donald Trump sponsoring the Saudi Arabians, or something like that, one way or the other. And there was one of the speakers, actually there's been two speakers that's come up to the plate that has really revealed some very, very sensitive material just within the past, I guess within the past 72 hours, or maybe a little longer. And it's all surrounding 9/11. It's all surrounding a government cover-up towards how that the presidency of the Bushes and the Reagans did not do the proper and right thing whenever it comes to actually going after the perpetrators that financed and foreseen of an attack on over 3,000 people here in the United States pertaining to 9/11. They have made a mistake. They know if this gets revealed, it could be crucial to not only giving various politicians a black eye in Washington, D.C., or have been in Washington, D.C., pertaining to the Bushes and the Cheneys and the Rumsfelds, which I think Rumsfeld is dead now. But it could also cause an international disturbance pertaining to the Saudi Arabias in regards towards the oil fields and the oil market. So this, I think, I can't prove it, I'm only speculating, so don't take my words out of context, that I'm predicting this, or that I'm some sort of a war analyst of some sort. But I think that word got out and the Saudis have caught wind of this, because it wasn't just being told on somebody's social media platform, it was actually being told on major open networks. And of course, if you know anything about major over networks, whatever gets told pertaining to public viewing or stuff that is considered to be public, goes all over the world. It just don't stay just in America. It goes all over the world, and I think that they're using this for a front or a cover-up. I don't know for sure, towards trying to tone it down in regards towards what went on with Donald Trump and the two 9/11 commissioners, or whoever that they was. One of them was a very, very strong advocate for the 9/11. Think he lost a lot of firemen in that deal, and it's got to the point whenever it comes to hypocrisy talking and hypocrisy thinking, it has got to the point that the American people can't put no trust at all, hardly, in their American government. And whenever it reaches that state, I mean, keep in mind, a year and a half ago, we had an uprising, an insurrection of a possible coup of so many people that's torn apart because of the illegitimacies coming out of the White House. It's very, very dangerous whenever you have a country that don't know who to trust or don't know what to trust, because there's too many messages coming out of the White House that basically people get to scratching their heads towards, is this the truth? Ain't this the truth? Is this associated with this, that, and that? What are they doing here? I mean, how come just suddenly, all of a sudden, we get news that somebody has gotten killed over there, and if the truth be known, somebody in the Al-Qaeda or some sort of known terrorist over there is probably getting killed 24/7, 7 days a week, 357 days out of the year. It is a network of terrorists that wants to destroy the American people. Now, if they can create a diversion in taking our minds and our eyes and placing the dots where they should be placed, if they can create that, regardless whether it's the White House doing it, regardless whether it's being done through the spirit world towards some sort of a diversion, the bottom line is this: they messed up 30 plus years ago, and the Democrats now are covering for the Republicans, and the Republicans basically are covering for the Democrats, because they're all in this together towards how that they have shortchanged the American people. Not only have the American people not gotten a bang for their buck, but they have lost trillions of dollars. They have lost years. They have lost lives. We have destroyed lives. And if the truth be known, we haven't accomplished no more today in Afghanistan than what we did before we walked off into it 20 plus years ago, which was the very thing that I and people like myself was saying to various heads of state in our government, that they was going to war with the wrong people. Just like President Ford. He felt like that going to war over in that area was the wrong thing to do, but he knew how dirty that the government was, and he didn't want it revealed until after he was dead. Now that speaks volumes about how he felt about his own organization that he was a part of. Because I guarantee you, from one presidency to another, the immediate cabinet members knows what has been said, who's been saying it, what perspective that it was said in. Okay, they're not stupid towards various agreements and various things going on throughout our country and throughout the international world. They're not stupid. They keep up with each other's homework, per se. The bottom line is that they are still covering for the true perpetrators that fumigated 9/11. Now I believe they're using this as some sort of a diversion, per se. I might be wrong. But then again, this could link directly into and with the Saudi Arabians, because there's too many people that think and believe the same thing that I do pertaining to the guilt that the war, instead of it being with the Afghanistan people, in which, don't get me wrong, they're very evil, corrupt people. They're very mean, they're very vicious people. But the war should have been with the Saudi Arabians, and I'm not the only one that feels that way. I'm sorry to say that if this gets in the hands of Homeland Security or the President of the United States, I'm just, I'm so sorry that people has different feelings about different things, and I feel like that I've got just as much right to have my feelings and talk about my feelings and talk about the things that I believe as anybody else does. That's what makes me equal as an American citizen. Now, granted, if I was in another country somewhere, I'd have probably already been assassinated because of me being loose-lipped. And several other people in America probably would have already been assassinated if they was in other countries too as well. But something has went on to the degree in the past 30 plus years we have spent so much money, so many lives, and accomplished so little. So now all of a sudden they're bringing this out before the headlines of this individual that's been killed. Hallelujah is all I got to say. Hallelujah, and two thumbs up to our CIA or whoever it was that pulled it off towards getting rid of this guy, because they need to get rid of about 100,000 more just like him. 100,000 more just like him, along with a big part of the kingdom over in Saudi Arabia. And there's other people that hate our guts now that's not even associated with neither one of those countries, because they just despise us because of who we are. So whenever it comes to our adversaries, we got them everywhere. But we shouldn't have to have our own adversaries in our own country running things in our own government. And the bottom line is this: our protecting agencies that we have hired and paid to protect us cannot even protect us from an internet hacker, much less 9/11, much less all the gun violence, much less things being topsy-turvy towards allowing for the petroleum industry to basically hold people hostage because they have control over the oil markets. Our United States government, that various people have been a part of for the past 30 plus years, as far as I am concerned, has been an absolute total failure of a broken system. Now, they can try to unbreak it all they want. They can try to disguise it all they want. They can try to make up for lost ground all they want. But eventually, the truth, nothing but the truth, the whole truth, will be told to not only the American people, but the world. I don't know where this is going. I don't know if it's some sort of a ploy. I don't know if it's some sort of a diversion. I just know this: it seems awful coincidental that the deal with Donald Trump and the truth hadn't been told. What Donald Trump said, his words was, the whole truth hadn't been told about the Saudi Arabians, in which he was accurate in that. He was truthful in that. So you got to dig through various politicians, because some of them says parts of the truth, some of them tell the truth, and some of them tell just an out and out lies. So you got to actually sift through some of the things that they say, because sometimes they actually nail it on the head. They actually nail it on the head. But then there's other times that it's just a deception. Nothing more, nothing less. It's just a deception. It's hypocrisy. Speaking out of both sides of their mouths at one time. So this, whatever's going on pertaining to the assassination of this particular person, hallelujah, congratulations, mission successful mission success. Whoever was involved in this, give them 2 thumbs up. But the bottom line is this: there's millions. There's millions of people out there that want to do us harm, that want to harm us in some sort of way. And to think that my government and various people throughout my government, I love America. I love America, and I love what America stands for. But whenever America turned the wrong turn in 1988, that's whenever they made a mistake for all of us. And to this day, not only has certain Americans not been held accountable for what went on in 9/11, but the very people that masterminded it and paid for it, pertaining to the Saudi Arabians, still has not been held accountable on account of 9/11. So as I sat back, I'm getting older. They poisoned me. The state of Kentucky has poisoned me towards making me obese. I'm trying to lose weight. I think, according to my doctor, I've lost about 25 pounds in a year, which is good. I'm going to try to lose another 25 pounds. But, whenever you get bombarded with all this negativity and it brings you down and you get depressed, it's kind of tough in losing weight and getting back up, hopping back up and being like Muhammad Ali, floating like a butterfly and stinging like a bee, whenever all you're getting is negative lies and diversions. So let's listen to this special report. And like they said, the president's supposed to speak on it tonight. And I'm telling you right now, somebody pressed the wrong buttons pertaining to the individual that was speaking out about Donald Trump being that close to New York and the Saudi Arabians being a part of that event. There was too much information that got put on the live wire. It's one thing to say it on social media, and it's another thing for it to get on the live wire. And that's exactly what happened. And whenever it gets on the live wire pertaining to the big mics, it goes everywhere. It goes worldwide. It goes global.
United States reporting on this strike killing al-Qaeda terrorist leader Ayman al-Zawahiri in Afghanistan. This occurred over the weekend. The news is breaking, confirmed now. Nicole Wallace here leading our coverage, and I can tell you what you may know. The president will be addressing the nation in about 90 minutes. The White House saying President Biden will speak out on this. It is a fast-moving, late-breaking story, and for that reason, we go directly to some of our experts on this. NBC Chief White House Correspondent Kristen Welker and retired 4-star Army General Barry McCaffrey. Kristen, what are we learning from the White House about something that apparently already occurred, but as the way these things...
See, this is another thing. They got people...
Right now tonight.
They got correspondents like this. They get paid really good money to get up there and say whatever various politicians want them to say. And they're basically puppets. And they say what they want to say in the format that they want to say it, because that's the pitch that they want to send to the American people. The guy on the far right, he talks like he's got some pretty good sense pertaining to various military strategies and stuff like that. I mean, he's been on many times, and I'm pretty sure he's not devoting his time on the live wire for nothing. Those people get paid good money to basically get on there and sway one way or the other. Whichever politician wants them to sway it this way, they sway it that way. And it's just gotten to the point of all the uncertainty and all the doubt, like Donald Trump, the swamp needs draining. Donald Trump making mention, during the Gulf procedures, that everything about Saudi Arabia has not been exposed or revealed. It's just a lot of entanglement that, like I told you a while ago, whenever the vast majority of the American people loses faith in their own government, towards their own government telling them the truth, and January the 6th is a strong indicator of that. January the 6th of the rioting that went on in the Capitol building, that's a pure, clean signal that obviously a group of people must have thought somebody was hokey poking them are lying to them, are not being completely honest with them, and that's what causes these types of uprisings. It's because we're $30 trillion in debt. Our prisons is full. We've been left behind as far as technology. Our infrastructure is falling apart. Very obvious that the boomers, or the people that's been in power, regardless whether it was politics or whatever, have made a mistake pertaining to the environmental global warming that they're trying to cover up now on, that they don't know how to get back on a handle on. There's just too many irregularities that the White House has done in the past 30 plus years that has put us where we are today, towards people being full of doubt and unbelief about their own government. There's no doubt they probably killed him. Hallelujah if they did. They should have killed 1,000 or 1,000,000 more just like him, that wants to do bodily harm to the American people for no reason. But I still say they haven't gone after the right perpetrators, because the right perpetrators got a whole lot more money and a whole lot more swag than Afghanistan.
It certainly is. First, we learned that President Biden was going to speak at 7:30 Eastern time to announce an operation against a senior al-Qaeda leader. And based on conversations with two sources familiar with the matter, my colleague Ken Delaney and I have been able to confirm that that leader was Ayman al-Zawahiri, who is the leader of al-Qaeda. He took over after Osama bin Laden was killed.
He should have been killed within 30 days after they killed his boss. He should have been killed within 30 days after bin Laden got assassinated, in which to this day we still don't know for sure. We're just taking a group of people's word that he actually died. They said that they throwed his body and gave him a sea burial, but how come there wasn't no documentation of all that? Somebody that important, bin Laden, to think that nobody decided to even take a snapshot with their phone towards doing a selfie or whatever. I mean, there's just a lot of stuff that people sit and question about our own government. How come this individual didn't die 30 days after his kingpin, his warlord died with him? How come he didn't get killed and assassinated up until now? How long has it been? 21 years? 21 years?
And this is
that's actually an insult to the judicial system that we pay lots of big money towards, especially the CIA. It's actually an insult to think that somebody has went this long and they're just now getting around to killing him.
This was a raid that was conducted over the weekend, Ari, and let me just read you something that the White House released, which is over the weekend the United States conducted a counterterrorism operation against a significant al-Qaeda target in Afghanistan. The operation was successful and there were no civilian casualties. So let's just take a step back and think about how we got here.
Now that I can brag about, that we are supposedly good at. Supposedly. I don't know the whole truth in that neither. No, don't nobody. But we do try to put more emphasis on targeting the enemy versus carnal damage and destroying just any and everybody. In other words, they laser focus on various subject matters that they can limit the collateral damage significantly. We just don't go in and do like poisonous Putin towards wanting to genocide the whole country and killing men, women, and children. I honestly say that the American government ordinarily does a good job whenever it comes to attacking the enemy pertaining to the guilty and not attacking the civilian life pertaining to the innocent.
Here, obviously, the United States withdrew its forces over the summer, last summer, And that was a withdrawal that was widely criticized. It was perceived as being botched. But in the wake of that withdrawal, President Biden said that he would continue counterterrorism operations, that they would continue to track people who were involved with terrorist networks. And so now we see the fruits of that. The New York Times reporting, Ari, at this hours, that U.S. officials said the strike was not conducted by the military, which suggests that the operation was carried out by the CIA. Now, the White House is going to be updating reporters in just about a half an hour from now. So we're going to ask about that and ask about how this operation specifically went down. We will obviously follow up on the claim that there were no civilian casualties.
Channel 6, because this is the national news.
He was a leader in Egypt's Islamic Jihad. He met the Saudi Osama bin Laden, who was fighting the Soviets in Afghanistan. They bonded. Zawahiri became bin Laden's personal doctor. By 1998, the Islamic Jihad and Al-Qaeda merged, Zawahiri as second in command.
Bin Laden was a relative newcomer to the world of jihad. Zawahiri had well-established credentials. These two uniting up provided a team that could not be broken.
America was their next target, the World Trade Center in their sights. After 9/11, Zawahiri was seen in Afghanistan and then went into hiding, a $25 million reward on his head. He kept Al-Qaeda alive as ISIS became the West's main target.
Islam, and we are calling.
Pious, ruthless, the brains behind the world's worst terrorist attack. Even in his final video, he was calling on Muslims to attack America.
Richard, what is the significance that this strike took place in Kabul?
So there are indications that it took place not just in Kabul, but right in the center of Kabul, not far from the presidential palace. And the United States has been cooperating, and many people don't know this, with the Taliban in the fight against ISIS. But the counterterrorism cooperation against Al-Qaeda has been very poor. So this seems like it was a target of opportunity for the Americans. The pinnacle of arrogance from the Taliban to host such a senior leader, and the United States sending a message to the Taliban that they won't tolerate the group once again hosting Al-Qaeda.
Richard Engel with the breaking news tonight. Thank you. Also in Washington, a federal judge sentenced a convicted rioter who stormed the Capitol on January 6 to more than 7 years in prison. Guy Reffitt of Texas was armed with a gun and zip ties. In court today, he called himself an idiot and said he no longer wants to associate with militia groups. Days into a historic flash flood catastrophe, rescuers in Kentucky are still uncovering layers of death and misery. The death toll now at least 37. Tonight, new dramatic images of the desperate search and rescue operation. And Jesse Kirsch has exclusive access with the National Guard as they bring relief from the air.
In eastern Kentucky tonight, flood survivors getting food, water, even diapers by air. The National Guard delivering supplies, including donations to thousands of people still largely cut off from the world more than 4 days after deadly floodwaters tore eastern Kentucky apart. Some areas so isolated, even this Black Hawk helicopter couldn't easily reach this community, where a main road was obliterated.
You can see there's a home down there tucked between the hills, and we're told that the roadway has been completely cut off. They need food and water, and this helicopter is going to bring it to them.
The deadly once-in-a-thousand-year floods destroyed bridges, ripped down power lines, and snapped homes like toothpicks. Overhead, it's clear much of the water has receded, but the desperate searches continue.
I don't think we still know how big the situation is. It could go on for a couple of weeks. It could go on for a month.
At least 37 killed, the death toll likely to climb. Among the lives lost, 4 children, all siblings. The governor said they'll be finding bodies for weeks. We aren't going anywhere. The National Guard already rescuing more than 1,000 people by air, including an 83-year-old woman and her family trapped in their attic.
I did not think we would survive.
Christy Turner's 2 kids and husband barely escaped the floodwaters. She and her father-in-law were trapped on the porch when the waters ripped her home from its foundation.
I was just thinking, how am I going to survive? How am I going to not drown? How am I going to be able to hold myself up?
Tonight, 12,000 people remain without power, 25,000 without water, and 44,000 under boil advisories. all as more rain continues soaking the region, making cleanup for survivors even harder. Some areas hit with another round of flash floods.
Everything had already been destroyed. You couldn't destroy much anymore.
And amid all of this destruction, now there's concern about excessive heat in the region as so many people are still without power or clean water. Lester?
Jesse.
Now they'll go from one extreme towards being cold and wet to the point of being overheated. And you take a lot of them people that was elderly and old, they depended upon medication. Well, you know good and well all that medication had to get swept away or grounded or ruined. I mean, you got to keep medication in a dry area. You can't let it get wet. So all them people's going to be doing without medication, on top of now the heat is going to be intense again on them, as far as having heat exhaustion or possibly a heat stroke that could lead into a heart attack. So it's just one exacerbating problem on top of another right now that they're having to deal with. And I'm absolutely speechless of the humongously of it, of it basically being about 3 counties. I was one of the first ones, probably within 2 or 3 days of going up to Waverly whenever their event happened last year of 17 inches of rain, in which it done damage more so than just in one town in that county, Humphreys County. It done some damage in other parts of the area, but by and large it was just confined in one county. I just can't believe how that the flood waters would affect 3, maybe 4 counties of devastation like this, because good and well whenever something like this occurs, everybody else is going to be strained towards giving what they can to them, regardless whether it's extra clothes or water or whatever. So it's just one exacerbating problem after another whenever something like this occurs on this magnitude. But the point that I'm wanting to make is this, pertaining to our meteorologist. I'm not a meteorologist. I don't claim to be a meteorologist. I don't claim to be a scientist. I don't claim to be a doctor. I don't claim to be a law enforcement person. All I am is just a little old Juby with a message pertaining to God and the things that mankind is doing to this planet and doing to themselves, that's basically causing these consequences to happen. But the question got arisen in my mind today while talking to somebody, that how come our Doppler radars, in which there's no doubt we do an excellent job in comparison to where they was 25, 30, 40, 50 years ago. It used to be you didn't get no warning at all whenever a tornado dropped out of the sky. Then they moved it from that to about a minute and a half, that they could tell that something was going on. Now, because of the technology, they've moved it up to about 12 to 15 minutes. They can tell within 12 to 15 minutes that something up in the sky is fixing to erupt, and for people to take this matter serious. This week, just in 1 week, we've had major flooding in and of around St. Louis. We've had major flooding west of St. Louis. We've had major flooding in the Ozarks. We've had major flooding in Nevada over in Vegas. We've had major flooding in Phoenix, Arizona. Loss of life and property in up through Flagstaff in Arizona. How come our Doppler radar systems cannot detect that it is going to be I'm going to use this word, a grand slammer pertaining to a cell that has got tremendous amounts of moisture in it. How come that we don't have equipment to be able to give out warnings ahead of time in trying to save lives? Because if these poor people would have even had as much as a 15 to 20 or even a 30-minute warning, just like the people up here in Waverly, Tennessee, maybe there would have been loss of property, but not so much loss of life. Once more, that falls under the conditions of protecting us. Once more, that comes under the guidance of the American government pertaining to various entities that's associated with the meteorologists and what they should be looking at and in, you know, tweaking their equipment to the point that they can really pinpoint whether or not this is going to be a big one or whether or not this is going to be a mediocre one. I don't know how that they could do it. I mean, if a radar system can pick up a plane, if a radar system can detect a pot plant down on the ground in the helicopter, because a pot plant puts out heat, and they can detect that somebody's been growing marijuana by the heat that's coming out of the pot plant, don't you think that they ought to be able to detect whether or not that cell is going to be filled full of trillions of gallons of freaking water, or if it's only going to have just a little bit? You know, they try to gauge it. I guess they try to gauge it. I don't know if it's a calculated guess. I don't know if it's a computer analogy guess. I don't know what it is. You know, we're expecting 2 inches, or we're expecting a ½ inch, or we're expecting 2 to 4 inches. You know, based upon the size of the cell. But whenever it comes to them actually knowing what's in that cloud, that disturbance, that amount of energy, they really don't have a clue until after it falls out of the sky and hits the ground. In other words, we're not a bit more today in advance towards these natural catastrophes that's falling out of the sky. We're not a bit more advanced today than what we was probably 50 years ago whenever it comes to being able to accurately measure whether or not a cloud has the potential of dropping 8 to 10 to 12 to 15 inches. And I guess the reason why I'm saying this, and I guess the reason why that they've been caught up in this pertaining to the meteorologists, the weather people, the scientists, is because this is a new phenomenon that is happening on account of global warming pertaining to our atmosphere getting so hot and causing it to hold more moisture, and whenever it does release moisture, it releases it all at one time. So, you know, we're gonna have to hit the ground running here if we're going to keep up with this, because it's obvious that we still haven't convinced the masses that global warming is real and that we're the ones that has caused it, number one. Number two, you got people that stuck in the 21st century, and as far as I'm concerned, they're still living in the 19th and 20th century. They're stuck in their old ways. And until we can become advanced towards keeping up with what Mother Nature has been trying to tell us now for several years, because several professional people, as well as myself, has been trying to warn and give out advisories for years and years and years, especially those that was associated with the meteorologist community and the science community pertaining to NASA and what they're seeing, what they're you know, the different changes and everything. They've been trying to warn us now for, I guess, about 30 plus years. A matter of fact, if you go back and look at the oil industry pertaining to the smokestack industry, it was foretold in the early 1900s that the carbons that we was putting up into the air was going to cause some sort of calamity. It was briefly discussed and then shut up, and it went out the door. You know why? Because there was too much money to be made off of petroleum. And I've been told, I don't know how true it is, but I've been told that there's been some really good Einsteins that has figured out different formulas to burn an automobile to where it would get like 100 miles to the gallon. And as soon as Exxon or Shell or Valdez or some of these other big petroleum markets found out about it, they would come and buy the patent from the person, lock it up or burn it, and that person never could reveal that patent again. And if they did, they were substantive going to jail. So really and truly, it has been the petroleum industries, families, that has basically put us in the shape that we're in right now towards seeing what you're seeing with all this destruction over greed. Over greed, over being hard-headed, over not listening to other people, over not looking at the signs. Like I said, these floods that are coming out of the sky, I seen one the other day on YouTube. I don't know who done it. I don't know where it was, but it was a cloud and it was over the ocean. Somebody was inland. They was on the bank, and all of a sudden it looked like just a wall of water fell out of the sky, and then it turned into a gusher to the point that it literally caused a tidal wave, and it was as if a whole spew of water was just automatically going down like a big water hose the size of 10 houses going down at one time, to the point that you could see it obviously that it was a release of the way that it was doing that. And I tend to believe now, because of the global warming scenarios and everything that's happening, I tend to believe the same thing that other scientists believe, that the atmosphere has become so hot, it's holding more moisture. If you really get to looking, what does heat do? Heat causes what? Evaporation. Where does evaporation go to? It goes up. It goes up into the atmosphere. Well, if the atmosphere is hotter than what it usually is, guess what? The moisture is going to be more intense, and it's going to go higher up into the atmosphere. But whenever something triggers it for it to fall, it just don't come down in trickles no more. I mean, every now and then we may get lucky and get a good decent rain. Here in the past 48 hours here in Northwest Tennessee, we've gotten some really, really good potential rains that's going to help the agriculture communities with their late corn and some of their early beans. Some really, really decent rains that come down. It would rain a while and stop, rain a while and stop. And sometimes it'd be hard, sometimes it'd be kind of just drizzling, and then it'd go back to raining again. Well, that's the type of rains that it takes for the agriculture communities to grow good, plentiful crops, to have good yields. Whenever a cloud has that much moisture in it, I think that there should be some sort of way to gauge it, to see that now the moisture, instead of it being on this level, now it's done went plumb up into a higher atmosphere. And even though they may not can judge how many square cubic gallons of moisture is going to be in that cloud, they should be able to know that because it's went so high, that it's going to be massive in some form or fashion. So I think their calculations are going to have to quickly change towards how that they're giving out these warnings, because obviously they're not warning the public in time to give people enough time to get out of these low-lying areas like this. And I've said this before and I'll say it again. Jesus Christ said that in the last days, whenever you shall see, visually see, these things occurring, to flee into the mountains. Because why? Because if you're in a low-lying area and something like this occurs, this is the repercussions of it. Great sorrows, indicating the magnitude being great. Not great as in being happy, but magnitude-wise. Great sorrows. And even Christ said that we would see signs in the heavens and up on the earth, such as we've never seen before in the last days. We're in the last days. And I realize that they've been teaching that over here in America now for I guess, the past 100 years or longer. But we truly are in the last days. And if you can't see that and understand that, then something obviously is wrong. Something obviously is wrong if you cannot connect to the real reality of what is going on in society today. Just like everybody and their brother wanting to bring harm and hurt to America because they're full of hate, they're full of hate mongering. They got the devil in them, even though they preach Allah, the Sharia law, and they're out to want to dominate the world in their ideology. The same thing that Hitler was trying to do during World War II. He wanted to dominate society with that Castalo type Nazism brand, to the point that he was basically going to be ruling the world. And it took a while for people to smarten up and wise up to that, just like it's going to take a while, I guess, a while more for people to wise up and realize just exactly who's behind all of this true terrorism that's coming over there from the Middle East. And there's more people than just me that believes this.
Jesse Kirsten, I thank you. In California, a deadly wildfire, the state's biggest of the year, is ripping through a national forest area just miles from the Oregon border. Miguel Almaguer is on the front lines tonight.
Oh my God, I can feel the flames from here.
The apocalyptic landscape's now commonplace. Homes in ruins, trees becoming flamethrowers. Tonight, this is the scene as firefighters struggle to set...
Salem, Oregon. I talked to a parts guy over there last year in the fall after the massive fires come around in that area. And according to him, the housing market had absolutely went crazy because of people needing homes, needing somewhere to live. But he said at one time they used to have lots of communities that was built up around various accomplishments that they was involved in. And he said now those whole communities have been burnt out. We have seen this now for about maybe 5, 6, 7 years going on out west. And now we're seeing it in places like Australia and England and Germany and Spain and all these other areas. So if the urgency about the environmental crisis is not addressed properly in America on the same level as our president going to address the nation in the next few minutes pertaining to terrorism over in the Middle East, I don't think there's no hope for us myself. If it is, they're going to have to put a whole lot more emphasis on waking people up, because I guarantee you I could travel within less than a quarter of a mile in either direction around here, other than going to the bottoms. Ain't nobody out there going to be out there but the squirrels, rabbits, and the raccoons. But I could go a quarter mile and talk to anybody out here in this neighborhood, and I guarantee you the vast majority of them would tell you we don't believe that global warming is doing this. Okay, if you don't believe global warming is doing this, then what is doing this? If they don't believe that global warming is doing this, pertaining to floods and fires, irregular weather patterns that we have never seen before, that we can't even chart right now properly, then what is doing this? It's either that or it's the devil himself coming down, bringing great wrath unto the world, just like the Bible talks about, that in the last days he will come down in great wrath because he knoweth his time is short. Because you can't tell me that this is actually God. God is not doing this. We are doing this to ourselves. The devil is doing this because the devil has tricked us. The devil has blinded us. The devil has deceived us. And now we're just now starting to awaken towards the consequences in what Lucifer, the Luciferian kingdom, has actually done. And unless we pull together towards solving these issues, they're never going to be solved. And our system is going to continue to be broke And our society is going to continue to be unsafe. And we're going to continue to go in the hole year after year after year as the drug problem gets worse, as the illegal immigrant problem gets worse, and as the prison problem gets worse. Something has caused this. Something has went entirely wrong whenever you have one pandemic, and then less than 2 years into that pandemic, now there's another pandemic that's merging on top of that pandemic. The heat. The planet is heating up. And as the planet is heating up, what happens to the moisture? It evaporates. Where does the moisture go? It goes up. I'm going to end right there because I've seen enough. I'm actually about halfway angry right now. I am so outraged by all this. I'm outraged by the terrorism. I'm outraged by our government not being able to protect us. I'm outraged because of the meteorologist. I'm outraged about the devil coming down this way and bringing wrath and people blaming it on God. I'm outraged about all of this, and I think I got a right to be outraged about all this in the year 2022, especially whenever people are still trying to live like they was living back in the 20th century instead of the 21st century. Do you really think that we're going to make it to the 22nd century the way that we're going? Look at what we are going to leave for our children and our children's children, pertaining to the things that they're going to inherit on account of us working slowly and not being on top of things. And you wonder how come the suicide rate's high? Sweet Jesus, may heaven help us all, is all I got to say. Thank you for listening. Good luck to each and every one of us. God bless you. God bless America. God bless America's endeavors. And may God help us all. Shalom.